I don't need to. Good afternoon. We're here meeting today with Conversations with Cheryl Weston, and my very special guest is Abby Kurtz with the Documenters Organization. And I'm really excited about this because I had watched Abby on, I think it was First Sky, and it kind of piqued my interest because I'm always looking for anything that gets involved with public notifications or public being made aware of everything. I love that, as many of you will know. So when I saw this, I'm like, you know what? I got to talk to her. I got to talk to her because this is what we need to know, and people need to know that this is out there. And then after looking at it and talking to her, of course, I went online, found out a little bit about them. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got to be part of it. So I'm going to make this disclosure right up front so everybody will know. I was so empowered, felt so how should I say, excited about it that I called Abby and said, I want to be part of it. And so she'll probably think about this later on. She says, I should not have taken that call. But anyway, she did take my call, and I have decided to become one of the documenters, and I want to make that known beforehand. But that wasn't part of her being on this program. So then afterwards, we had another meeting, and I said, you know, Abby, I got to have you on my Conversations with Cheryl Weston because I think it's important that people know about it. And you know, and I want to be involved. So that's how we got here today. So without any more of my conversation, Abby, I'd like for you to kind of introduce yourself to the audience, to know who you are, kind of how you got into this, and give your kind of ideal of what Documenters Org is. And then I'll kind of just start picking your brain with some questions about that.
Sounds great. Thanks, Cheryl, and thanks for having me here today. I really appreciate it. A little bit about me. I'm originally from Schuyler, Nebraska, have been in Omaha for about 15 years now. Prior to this job, I worked with the Heartland Worker Center, so I come from an community organizing background, having worked a lot in the Latino community here in Omaha, as well as some different rural communities in Nebraska. Really looking at bringing up or encouraging more people to get involved in local politics and make sure that their voices are heard. So yeah, it's just a little bit about me. And then what I will also say about the Omaha Documenters. So I started this gig as the program director in July. We are part of a national network of documenters. It started with City Bureau out of Chicago in 2018, then expanded to Cleveland, Detroit, Minneapolis, and then this last year Omaha joined Fresno and Atlanta as a new cohort of documenters teams, and being part of a national network definitely has a lot of benefits for us as well. But basically the program was designed to train and pay people to cover public meetings. So the way that we've seen traditional newsrooms get cut back quite a bit, there's no longer the regular coverage that would happen at a lot of these public meetings. And we see coverage more so when there are sensational issues on the agenda that get a lot of coverage. But in terms of like documenting consistently and regularly monitoring what's going on, that's not happening. And that's just the reality. And so this program was started to give people an opportunity to have a little civic side hustle and also be engaged while being able to document what's going on and being able to inform others about what is happening in the public in public spaces.
Well, you know, one of the things that when I went online and in our conversations that we had one-on-one, these are, I like the idea that you've chosen public or local government bodies, and that there are meetings and people aren't aware that they can come to these meetings. A lot of people don't realize that. And then, but on the other hand, those local individual or organizations, they do realize that people can come. So therefore, that's why they have them at these times when the average person is working. And so I think it's great that this is out there, but more people need to be made aware of it. One of the things, though, I question, and I think I talked to you earlier when we had our one-on-one, Abby, is how does this get put out? I know you say, you know, you can go online and you go to the organization and click in Omaha, but what about people who don't have access to online services? Is there any way, or I noticed that you're kind of connected with the reader. Is anything put in there it's going to be, or is that something in the works? You know, what about that individual who doesn't have access to online, you know, services?
Yeah, so we just started. That's my
Mhm.
little preface. So currently the way the system is set up, we do publish online at documenters.org under
Mhm.
Omaha and under news, and that's where people can get access to the notes from the different meetings we've covered, as well as live tweets. As we continue to grow, I'd like to explore other opportunities that we can, or like media products that we can use or develop so that people can know more about what's going on. And so hopefully partnering with other entities like the Reader to get things published. I know they're probably going to do more long form things in the actual publishing of it. Perhaps like a potential newsletter. I'd like to maybe even do like a weekly recap of what's happening, maybe like a video format as well. So people can like get the information and just kind of know in smaller, like bite-sized pieces about what's happening in these different agencies. So if people have suggestions, please reach out to us about how they would like to see this information kind of like reformatted.
That sounds good. And I will let the audience know we will have Abby's information at the end of the program. You'll be able to get her website and go online. If you have questions, you know, contact Abby and let her know what your thoughts are. Or if you want to become a documenter. Now, and that was one of the things that when I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, I can just see some people who would love to do it, but I'm not a writer. I don't have journalism background. You know, so if that person wanted to, how would you assist them in order to be able to become a documenter? And on the second part of my question to you, I always like to load questions up. The second part of it is, so if this person does go and they become, they get the training, and do you edit it or how is that done? So, you know, people want to know, like,
Yeah,
geez, I didn't take that down.
so what so first of all, like anyone who's interested can go through the orientation. That's just the first step. From the orientation itself, just kind of presents the project, tells you how we work, how we do assignments, etc. From there, like if people feel inspired to, the whole point of the program is to like anybody who wants to can become one. And so that I do a lot of training up front to kind of explain what we expect from notes or from live tweeting specific to the meetings. So even if someone doesn't have a journalism background but is interested, you know, I want to work with people who want to be engaged. I think this is a great opportunity for people who just want to know more about what's going on in city hall or county government or even school boards to get involved. So if there's the desire, I'm totally excited to like work with people from that. A lot of times it's just kind of taking notes, you know, and like monitoring what's going on. It's a lot of active listening. And then from there, it's about editing the notes. That's what I currently do right now as well. And so that's where people can learn a lot too in terms of with the feedback, kind of what we're looking for, expecting, you know, and then take another assignment and keep building upon those skills that people have done. So definitely like a lot of online training. We're also looking at as part of the network, maybe doing some writing trainings with them, or there are other institutes that do free online training as well. So even just connecting people with those is a great opportunity as well.
So I think what it boils down to is what you're saying is just because you don't have that training or background, don't be afraid, but you have a strong desire to be involved in democracy is what it's about, is giving people the tools and information to be able to make decisions about what's going on in their city, and also being involved. And that's the more that we get back involved, because we don't have civic training anymore in schools, the more that we become involved is how we make change, how we hold on to what we have. So another question I had interest in is diversity. How are you trying to reach out to have a diverse population of documenters for that?
So I'm using a lot of the contacts that I had with different organizations and groups and institutions in Omaha, working mostly on this east side of the city, just to kind of build relationships, see who they know, who might be interested. I'm also looking at working around different issue areas for next year. So looking at building teams around education, around like climate change, transportation. So if people are interested in those too, I think it's just all about building relationships. And so who I know and you know, who work in different entities, and how do we kind of connect, who do they know to maybe refer, or, you know, just to go talk to, but really just trying to connect with people who know others.
Has there been any have you kind of talked to any of the journalism departments at the colleges in order to, or has there been any reception from them, you know, because
so I'm partnering with Creighton, hopefully for next semester. There's an editing course that they're offering, and so that's going to be a really good way to partner with some of the students there who can help edit. Hopefully the professor, we've talked about also maybe doing a training for the documenters about, you know, how I think about like how the Open Meetings Act works, how to do some good editing, and in terms of like people reviewing their own notes. I'm still looking at, I have a communications professor that I work with at UNO, and then I want to work and see how I can partner maybe more with the actual journalism students too, because this is a very good opportunity too for them to be able to kind of get more of like the real life journalism practice out there. So yeah, totally looking at partnering with some of them, and then hopefully like an English department out of Metro. I hope to have a meeting with them in the next month too.
That sounds great, because I think, you know, when we're looking for, I always say, when you're trying to say, oh, it's going to be diversified and that, people, you know, kind of go, yeah, it's the same old thing. But to hear how you're reaching out is to that. And I think one of the things I want to really stress to my community, when I say my community, North Omaha, is don't be afraid. If there's someone out there that's going to help, even though you haven't with it, I know there's some retired individuals, even some maybe retired school teachers who don't want to have to be anywhere and be there for 10 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours anywhere. They've done that. But, you know, I'm going to be reaching out to them just to say, hey, come on, this is your opportunity to be able to get back and to teach. Because it is kind of a teaching, is what you're doing is to, when I say teaching, it's teaching the community, it's teaching the citizens of Omaha about what's going on and how they can be part of it. And one of the things I think I kind of lightly went over, and you lightly went over, folks, this is paid. Okay, you're going to get paid. So, Abby, how does that work?
Yeah, so currently, so it's just a civic side hustle. We pay people for the time that they're at the meetings. What we're able to pay right now is $15 an hour, and then an additional $30 on top of that for editing. So just asking people to kind of go back, clean up their notes, organize them. And so that is also paid too. So, and people are able to take however many meetings that they want. Like, you know, most active documenters take about 1 to 2 meetings a week. And the more people that we can get, the more meetings we're going to start covering. So that's kind of where we are. And so, yeah. And I just wanted to reiterate too, because the thing that really stood out and I liked it was like about, you know, maybe like retirees or others or teachers taking on some of these too. And not just teachers. I think we're all teachers in a way, right? But the role of the documenters to go take all the information.
Mhm.
I mean, we ask them to be very objective and not engage in these public meetings because their role in and of itself is to stay there, observe, take notes, and then bring that back to the community. And so they're really acting as conduits from what's happening in these public meetings back to the general community.
Yeah,
So
and I think that's important. And you made a good comment, was we are all teachers, and that's why this is important, because we can teach someone else. And it says, you know, if you teach one, then that one can teach another one, and that's how we continue it, because we keep building up on it. And when I was referring to teachers, was more like those who have been in the education field. But I think that people need to understand is this is an opportunity really to be engaged and not sit back, not have any input. Sometimes when we go, you know, we think, well, no use in doing it because they're going to do whatever they want to do. But if we don't change that, they will do whatever they want to do. How do you choose the meetings, Abby? How do you choose where to go? And maybe if you can be quickly to kind of give an idea when you say public meetings, those meetings are those that have to be adhered to the Nebraska Open Meeting Act, or just meetings general? How do you choose your meetings?
correct. So currently just kind of looking at there, I have a list of about 70 different entities that potentially like could fall under the Open Meetings Act. Some of them don't actually meet. So that's where we're still looking at a lot of the advisory councils for the mayor. We don't know when they meet or if they meet. But the ones that we're currently looking at now are like city council, county commissioners, the MAPA meetings, because that has to do with development, transportation, streetcar, looking at the Omaha Housing Authority, school boards here within OPS, and then we're hoping to expand to different school boards in the metro area too. So really, I would say like where people's daily lives are tied to these public entities, prioritizing those first is key for us. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking of too. Also like the department, the county board of health is important as well. Just even, I think just even knowing how a lot of these things work, what they do is important for a first step. As you had mentioned earlier, like, you know, it's an opportunity for people to kind of know what's going on. And I think I've worked as a poll worker in the elections for like the last 10 years. And it was through the training and the actual work of like doing it, being there, that I was like, I learned a lot about just how elections here in Nebraska worked, right? And I think that's the same for this. It's like you go, you observe, you're part of it. I mean, you get paid to do it too. And then you can learn a lot about how things work. And then we're able to take that information back, you know, to publish, but also we can teach a lot more people within our networks too about just how these things work. And that's how we're able to change a lot of stuff of what's going on, is just being in the know-how.
Right. I'm a firm believer is, you know, that old saying that says power empowers people. And the lack of power of knowledge, that's when people are taken over. And that's what's kind of happened. We've become such a society is, you know, oh, I don't want to hear any more of that, or I don't want to do any of that. And then it's like, well, when did that happen? Could they do that? Well, that's because you didn't want to be part of it. And we have to be participants. It's past the time now of sitting back and not being participant into what's happening. Because as I said, it boils down to our rights and democracy, what is being taken. And it's getting so, you know, that there's just this small little population that is, as I say, the small is ruling the majority. And we understand that, particularly when we talk about financing and our way of our caste system. When I say caste is based upon finances, money, we understand, but there's also other little changes that are happening that people do not realize because they're not participating and they're not taking that into consideration. One of the other things is wondering, you know, since you've started and, you know, it's just been what, 6 months ago, or it can't be too much more than 5 months ago. So what have you say have been for 2022, and then what would you like to see for 2023?
I think for 2022, we've just really learned how the systems work as part of being as part of the national network. There's something called scrapers. And so what happens is it's a data tool where they go onto these websites that I've mentioned, they pull the data about the meetings, and then we're able to publish it. That's the other thing I could probably say about the website too. Under documenters.org, it's one place where anyone can access and just see a list of all the meetings that are happening within the city, the county, and the school boards, which given how things currently work, you got to go to about 70 different websites to figure all that out. And so having it all at the tip of your fingers is definitely a tool. And so just kind of getting the rhythm of making sure that those scrapers are working has been key for this month, or this year, excuse me. As well as just beginning to connect with different folks, sharing information about the documenters, and really understanding that there is a need for this here, has probably been the biggest thing for 2025 as we continue to grow.
2022.
Oh, did I say 2025?
Yeah.
Let's edit
we
that
haven't
out.
gotten there. I know you're trying to move it along, Abby, but we haven't gotten that far.
Today's Friday, right? Cool. So, okay, 2022. All right. Okay, and in 2023, wow. What I'd really like to focus on are building teams that can kind of really work on different issues that are happening, teams around education, teams around climate, or development, housing, transportation, these different things that people care about here, and then also, and so definitely expanding our network of documenters, also developing a couple of different strategies or tools that how we can distribute the information in ways that are, like I mentioned earlier, in ways that are maybe more tangible, digestible, so people can be aware on a more regular basis. And then lastly is, and this would be great to hear from your audience too, is another thing that we're able to do are called special projects. And so as we continue to do some of this documenting of the public meetings, what are questions that people have? What are things that people would like us to dive deeper into to know? So we can also provide that information with folks. And so even looking at like, well, what does the budget look like? How does that work? What are these different line items? How we could maybe explain that to people, or, different things that different questions that people have, let's look into those things too. So that's kind of the goal for those are the goals for 2023. I'm glad you're listening. Thank you.
One of the, when you said that, like special projects, what do you mean by special projects?
So for example, I believe in Chicago, they had the documenters go around from people in their network just to ask them about the upcoming elections, right? Like what they were thinking of it, how much they knew about the project. In Detroit, they just did a project to understand more the transportation system there, and they called it Docs on the Bus. And so they were looking at, so they actually got on the bus and talked to the riders, just to see kind of what they thought about it, and produced a report from that. In Cleveland, they're looking at maybe some police oversight project. I haven't heard more about that since November, but just kind of discussing that with the documenters as well, and how would that look and how would they go about doing that. So things that people want to dive deeper in and know more about in public entities, these public spaces, especially those entities that serve us as citizens here of Omaha. What can we research? What can we ask about? And then use that to inform either the general community or, even elected officials about this is really what people think.
That sounds great. That would be, you mentioned a couple things there. I could just, I know several people be like, hey, I got it. I want this. So when you talk about like those special entities, special projects, and you get involved, like some of the issues, would you be willing to, or is that something you would consider as like, I'm trying to think of one, I don't want to tip my hand to one, but just say housing. One of the issues is that I'm working on, not with the documenters or anything, is this another incident where the city of Omaha has not been held accountable for people being displaced from their homes, like legacy crossings. A year or so ago, maybe 18 months, you had another incident where that happened. And so, those are things I think that are special that people need to be more have access to. There was one on Jones Street. And so I'm looking into that as to why are these things keep happening? City planning evidently is not doing their job. The mayor's office is not doing the job, because if they were, why are these things going so long of a period of time? And then people are being displaced in the dead of winter. And most of these, each time has happened when it's been cold or during the circumstances, people get kicked out with a 10-day notice, or some of them that day that they're supposed to be. So those are things. Would that be something that the documenters would be interested in? Do you think that that would be something you, as head of the document, would be involved or would be interested in doing? I'm just using that as an example. It doesn't have to be that, but situations like that.
But yeah, looking at how government plays a role in these, diving deeper in how the government plays a role in these things that affect us daily, right? And so again, like, since you're a documenter, what are suggestions you all have as well?
Mm-hmm.
And even like from what we're hearing in some of these meetings, it's really kind of fun to see how the pieces begin to connect as people continually go to these meetings too, and asking those questions. And then how do we dive deeper? Because I'm assuming the individual isn't the only one who has questions.
Right.
Others do too. And so how are they really led by documenters like yourself?
So would it be, I don't want to put words in your mouth or say something that isn't right. What I'm hearing now is, if people have ideals or want to know more information about something, they need to contact you, let you know, your organization know, these are things that I would like to know more about or interest. And then, that'd be something that you could, is that the way to handle that?
Yeah, because we don't want to be an organization that just like, this is my visual, but like opens people's heads up and like dumps information in there. But like, how is what we're covering, what we're producing actually of interest to the community?
Okay.
If not, what's the point? And so please reach out to me and say like, yeah, we want to learn more about XYZ. Great.
And as I said, we will have Abby's information at the end of the program. We'll have that information that you can get in touch with her or get in touch with the organization, how to find out more about it. I think that, as I said, I'm really excited about this coming. How was Omaha chosen? It's just like Omaha, because when I saw it and the individual that started it was out of Chicago and everything, and I'm like, Omaha. And then I saw where Atlanta is part of it now, and I could truly understand Detroit, but Omaha. So how did Omaha get involved with this to be chosen as one of the cities for a documenter?
To be honest, I came on after it was chosen. I know it was chosen amongst like 70 to 100 different cities that had applied.
Wow.
It's been part of a conversation for about 2 years. But why? I don't know. Thanks to what's currently happening.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It was just, it was when I first heard about it, and I'm like, what? Omaha? And then, my mind class, so I got to find out about this. And I went online, and then I did some more research on, the individual who started it. And I'm like, how in the world? So somebody had to go say Omaha, Nebraska, which I'm glad, because more of this, people don't understand. Not only will this be locally get out, but now we're going to be put on the map. Omaha will be put on the map for things that are going on. And they're going to, that helps to hold more people accountable. When they know that, okay, if I do this, this isn't going to just stay right here in Omaha. This is going elsewhere. So that's one other thing I liked about it, is that maybe it isn't the particular issue that I want to address or in, but it does spur the interest of Omaha, period, that brings people in to want to know more about what's going on in Omaha.
And the other thing too that I just like about the network is that we're able to learn from other communities, kind of like what they're looking into, how their local government works or doesn't work, and just having those conversations, because sometimes we live in a community, it's like, well, it's always just been done that way. Well, it doesn't have to be. Like, look at how they're doing it, or maybe be a model for others too, you know, like, and
I
even for some of
wholeheartedly
these
agree with that.
projects,
Yeah.
you know, so yeah, it's like a great learning community too. And in these other communities, people are excited for it too. So, and they have documenters from all different backgrounds and experiences too. So that's the fun
Oh
part.
yeah. It was very interesting. Like I said, I would encourage people, if nothing else, is to go online and look at the documented organization of others and see. And I think that will spur their interest in saying, okay, well, hey, it's hit Omaha, and this gives me, if nothing else, it gives you an opportunity to be able to get up and say what you want to say, get people interested in it and follow it. Well, Abby, I'm almost out of time. So I'd just like to say, if there's something you would like to end the program on, that you'd like your people to know or encourage or whatever, I'll just give you the last.
Yeah, I would just say, like, I mean, thank you again for having me today. I'm really excited for this program. I think you had mentioned power as well. And from my organizing experience, we always talked about, you know, power is the capacity to act. And it's just about taking action and being involved. And oftentimes we can give away our consent of power through misinformation. And so I think the more people we can encourage to be involved, or at least to read the information or somehow connect with others, like, we can break down those barriers to misinformation, you know, and actually get real stuff out there and feel empowered to then use that information and take action.
Factual information, because we are definitely in a misinformation society. So it's good to have something to bounce off of it. And if we don't have more things like your program organization getting factual information out, then we will be consumed and taken by misinformation. And a lot of people, they get fixated on one issue or one entity giving them their information, and they don't bother to check. But being able to have this, I think, will open it up. Well, Abby, I want to thank you very much, because I know you're very busy. I appreciate you taking this time, and I'm definitely looking forward to becoming more involved with Documenters Org. And then I don't want to hear, like, what was I thinking when I let that woman sign on? What was I thinking? No, I'm looking really forward to being a documenter. And, it's going to be hard because, as you said earlier, when you're a documenter, you can't speak. And I'm going to have to catch myself. I'm going to be taking that note. I'm going to be wanting to say, wait, but I will abide by the rules and regulations. We go. So again, I want to thank you, and hope you have a happy new year, a very exciting year to look forward to. 2023, not 2025.
Great. Thank you,
Say, where
Cheryl.
did that come from?
I don't know. So it's what I do.
Well, have a happy new year. We look forward to more of these conversations. And as I said, I look really forward to becoming more involved. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.